Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Well, hello, my beautiful friends. I am so happy that you are here. And I want to say these are hard episodes. If you're tuning in and this is the very first time because of the topic I'm talking about, welcome. And for those of you that have been listening to my podcast, thank you so much for returning. This series began when someone asked me what was the hardest thing you ever went through. And it made me scan my lifetime and think about hard things and think about the fact that we wear a mantra that says, I can do hard things because I had to, right? We can do hard things because sometimes there's no other choice. For me, the lessons I've learned through so many of those hard times, those hard things that I lived through, they've brought a lot of healing and wisdom to me. And that's the purpose of me sharing it with you. I kind of went into each hard thing with my eyes not fully opened to the magnitude of what it was. I was on steep learning curves all the time and trying to trust my instincts, but not having information to help guide difficult decisions. So the next 3 episodes, they're a little different in my family, all related. So the first one today is how to have that sacred role reversal and when and why to do it and how to do it. When you have to start parenting the parent, it's a very delicate passing of the torch. I was blessed with parents who were realists. They knew, they had been there, even though I was busy while they were doing that. I didn't know what it took, right? But they did. My dad, 25 years prior, had purchased long-term health insurance for both him and my mom so that we would have a resource. And it turned out to be such a blessing for my mom. We did not use that near as much with my dad, and I'm going to talk about that and tell you why. But before we get into the beautiful, messy season of our aging parents, I want to give you all some statistics, and it's real important for you to be thinking about this and understanding things so that when you are taking care of aging parents or planning for that part of their life, that you're armed with some real good information. I have to say that imagining my mom and dad aging was very difficult. First of all, they were full of life. Secondly, I didn't want to ever think about that. I remember thinking that I wouldn't really know how to walk on the face of the earth without those 2 people in my life guiding me. So when this time came, my dad was the one who kind of took the lead in setting it up. And so he and my mom lived in Florida. We are in North Carolina. My dad moved to be closer to us. I was the only daughter, and it made sense that they would live close to us so that we could see them through the rest of their life. And my hope was that it would be another 50 years. But anyway, they were looking at properties and trying to make decisions. And I said, we need to find a place where we have an in-law suite. someplace where you all just actually live with us, but have your own space for your autonomy. We were blessed to find a house that had a full basement that had been not finished yet. And so the builder said he could convert it into a really nice apartment for them with their own entrance. They could pull their car right up to it. So number one, that was the best decision that we made in our family dynamic. That worked great. And it's not something everybody can do, but I want you to think about it now, because I'm going to give you some statistics in a minute, and you're going to see why this is an important consideration. So my mom and dad moved in with us. I always start with a story, and it was glorious. And the reason that they did, I didn't find out till later, but my dad had been diagnosed. He was diagnosed 10 years prior to them moving in with us with prostate cancer. And because of his age, they didn't want to do the surgery, and they gave him medication and told him what to do. And he had it checked every year. And they said it was such a slow growing type of cancer that he would probably die of something else before he died of cancer. So they just said, take the medication and don't worry about it. Of course, you kind of have that ticking time bomb inside, and he knew that he had to get his affairs kind of in order. So when they moved up, they got in their in-law suite. We loved it. My dad was still vital, healthy, active. They went and walked in the mall, like 3 miles walking around this mall near us, and stayed active and healthy and traveled for the next 8 years. And at that point, his PSA went really high. And in the next episode, I'm going to be talking about that part. I don't want to go into a rabbit hole, but it ended up, we knew that we had 6 to 8 months with him. And he was still very mentally sharp through that. And his needs were going to be more physical. And so we quickly started gathering resources. Okay. But what I want to talk about, there's a prelude to all of that it's really important for everybody to consider. It was so good we had 8 years. They didn't have to move after they got sick or incapable of living alone. We have a population of people that are living longer, and it's very difficult, and they're very vulnerable if they're living alone. And so it puts the kids, I still call us kids, in a position of having to direct that if they aren't already doing that. And here's some things I want you to take into consideration. The baby boomer population is the next population to go into that elder care age, okay? And baby boomers are currently between 61 and 79 years old. There are approximately 73 million baby boomers that are 65 years of age and older. It's 1/5 of the U.S. population. An estimated 26 million Americans over the age of 50 are living alone, making it the fastest growing demographic in the U.S. And single and childless, roughly 1/3 of the baby boomers are single, and they don't have children to take care of them. Okay. The likelihood of a baby boomer needing care, long-term care of some sort, is 70%. 7 out of every 10 will require long-term care, according to research. Let's talk about the finances for a minute. This financial piece is really, really something to pay attention to. If you don't know your parents' financial support and what they have, it's important now to start having some conversations, okay? Here's why. More than half of the peak 65 and older group of baby boomers, let's call them peak 65, the ones that are going to grow old, who will turn 65 in 2030, have less than $250,000 in assets, including savings and real estate. I want you to just earmark that number, $250,000 in assets, okay? Then I want you to pay attention to that because of what in-home care, assisted living, and nursing homes will cost on a monthly basis, okay? And obviously, these are statistics that my research has in our area, and it might be less or more, depending on where you live, okay? But I want you to hear how much money has to come from somewhere to provide the kind of care that they will need. And if you don't have the resource, you need to understand how is your family going to take care of them. So in-home care hourly rates across the national medium is about $33 an hour, and some states average 24 to 43. Okay, so $33 an hour. To use in-home care just 20 hours a week, you will need to be providing $2,640 a month. Full-time, $5,200 a month. And live-in care, the cost can range from $15,000 to $22,000 a month, depending on that level of care. If they go into assisted living facilities without a long-term health insurance policy, the average cost of that is over $6,000 a month. And if they have a semi-private room in a nursing home, it's $9,000 and more per month. And for a private room, over $10,000 per month. So out-of-pocket expenses, if you take care of them, the family caregivers spend an average of over $7,000 annually or $600 a month out of pocket on just the caregiving expenses, medical supplies and home modifications, that you have to do for them as that becomes necessary. So all of that, it's a lot of statistics, and I hope you were able to hang with me. But I want you to know that even if they're fragile, even if right now they're doing okay, but maybe they have a fall and they have to have some care, or they're doing okay, but maybe they're starting to show signs of confusion and problems with cognition. And I'm going to talk about those subtle signs because it's the beginning, right? Those are the beginning of the beautiful, messy thing you have to go through with them by saying gently, I'm here. And you have to give them so much respect and protect their dignity, honor them. And I was so lucky to have that privilege with both of my parents and with my husband's mom. We weren't there for his dad, but for his mom, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But there's different family structures. There's different family dynamics. There's different people's opinions. There's all kinds of things that if you have siblings, you're going to have to manage. And I'm getting to that in just a minute too. I was blessed to have two beautiful and cooperative parents. I was also blessed to have two beautiful and cooperative brothers who gave me 100% support to do what I needed to do to take care of them. So when does this start? When do you need to start considering making changes? And how? How do you have those conversations? So the first thing that usually happens is it becomes unsafe for them to drive. Either their eyesight isn't as good or they have slow reaction. And it's important to, a little scary, but drive with them. See how they do. Driving, I have found, having the keys in a car are very, very important to our parents. That is one of the signs of independence. When they hand over the keys in the car, it's saying this is the beginning of everything getting really messy. There's not going to be a lot of beautiful moments ahead. That's how they see it. But it's so important. And if you notice they don't want to drive at night, if you notice there's little dents on the car, if you notice that, they're going to drive with you to Target, but they're confused about, they get disoriented on the way. These are all very important things to look at. And it's probably time to say, look, let me drive today, and let's limit where you can drive and let's sit down and talk about that. you want to approach that conversation with concern rather than control, and suggest, let's go do a driving assessment. So they get data and make a decision based on that data, not based on you telling them. It sets up a power struggle with them from the get-go if you don't approach it just right, because that turning over their keys is a big thing. And we don't want them in an accident. And we certainly don't want other people on the road to be in danger. So that's one of the things you're going to watch for. Also, notice their medication. It's going to be important to have a list of everything that they take, every prescription, every supplement, anything that they take, okay? And you need that list. And if they ever had to go to the emergency room, that's one of the first things they're going to ask for. So it's a really good thing to have that and know where they keep their medication. But beyond that, you're going to want to notice, like, if they're due for a refill, but they don't have enough to get to the date of the refill, meaning they took it, but forgot they took it and took it again. So if you find prescriptions that there's too many or there's not enough, if it's not clear, they may be having confusion about that. Now, the good news is that you can offer to organize the medicine. There's pill organizers with the date on it, and they just take those. You can teach them if they're still cognitively pretty sharp. That works. And it's good to sit with them and make sure it's all organized. They also have really cool machine that you fill, I think, for 30 days, and you tell it what time, like if you want 8 a.m. pills, they come into the little pill cup and they announce it's time to take your meds. They take them, put the cup back, and then it might be 3 o'clock. You're supposed to take one pill. And so they announce that. I think it's really cool. And that's something that they can still manage independently. And that's the goal, is the more that you can still let them do successfully, the better, for as long as they can. Okay. But really, at the very least, you want to know what your parents' medications are that they're taking. And that's probably true for any age. So, all right. Finances. This is tricky. I know that in the baby boomer generation, there's a lot of us that, we don't want to really share our private information. That's just between me and my bank account, and I don't want anybody messing with it and all of that. But the hard part of this is that so many of us baby boomers get our notices, digital notifications, and we don't really have unopened mail and bills laying around. So you're going to have to probably say, as part of preparation, tell me what credit cards you have and if you even use them, just so that we have that for the bank. And it doesn't mean you have to do anything different. It just allows for the bank to know, and for me to know, if anything ever happened, I would need to know what you have. And we're just going to make it. And you can even keep the list here in your drawer. Again, not controlling them, but giving them that kind of support and care. Okay. You're going to want to pay close attention to this and discuss the importance of having you or someone monitor accounts to protect them. Okay. Now, I have bad news for you guys, and for me, for all of us. There's scams out there that I personally know 3 people that together is almost $1 million of loss over this scam. And they were all in the later ages. There's one in their 70s, two in their 70s, maybe the other was in her 60s. But I want to say that it's a very, very sophisticated scam. There's one that I think they call them the gold bar scams. And it's criminals who impersonate officials, bank officials, convincing seniors to convert their savings into gold bars for safekeeping. Okay. And you can go and find news reports about this. They convince them, and they even are so sophisticated that they're giving a phone number for you to call back to be sure that you're talking to someone who's a bank representative. and they have the number that you call back. When you dial it, it's verified as the bank you bank in, and they know it. So we're in turbulent times in our world and in our country right now. And a lot of people are skittish, about what's going to happen. And to have a bank official say something's happening with our money, the best thing we can do right now is to convert all your savings into gold bars. And people are doing it with all their savings. And it's a scam. They actually get it and buy gold bars, but they have them and you can't get it back. They, sell it somewhere and you can't trace it. So I want to say that's the worst scam I've ever heard of. And the fact that it takes advantage of our elder population, it just infuriates me. And I know people where it's happened, and they're smart people. So please, you be aware. But what happens if that happened, if they got a phone call like that, and you have parents living by themselves, functioning independently, and don't know? So please alert anyone who you know is considered elderly, because that's the target that they go for. And that's not good. Another thing you have to watch out for, which makes me sad, the other makes me really mad, is elder abuse. And this can happen in many ways. Elder abuse is something that no one knows it's happening. There's not a lot of press about this, but it's a very important thing to watch for. Often it's a caregiver can become abusive, especially with someone who's needing a lot of support with mental capacity. They can get angry or agitated, and how that gets handled, you have to be on top of it. But it also is financial. And you might have a family member seeing that the parent is starting to decline and asking the parent to help them when those resources are needed for the parent's care, right? And so if you have siblings, it's real important for everybody to be transparent, for everybody to know what's happening. The person who's going to oversee finances has to be accountable. If anybody asks, stay in integrity, agree to all the big decisions. And if you can't have those conversations, then stay very diligent about what's going on with their finances. As I just told you, the cost of taking care of them is big. And if you think this is what I want to do, I want in-home care and keep them with me, then you've got to think at their resources. Are they going to outlive their resources? So you've got to do some homework to see that. And sometimes you have to even go to them and have them tell you that, depending on how old they are and all of that. Their home environment could change. And you might have been used to coming in, it was tidy, and now it's cluttered. You can see if things have been neglected. You can look at the food in their fridge and see if they're replacing good, fresh food in their refrigerator every week, or if their, food is expired and outdated, and are they eating food that's expired? You have to start looking at that. Those are signs of physical or mental health issues happening if, they aren't staying on top of that. You also might see the signs through their personal hygiene. Maybe they're not grooming or wearing clean clothes, or maybe they're wearing soiled clothing. It might suggest there's some depression or physical limitations or cognitive things going on about just their hygiene and how to take care of themselves. The thing about all those signs are that they develop very gradually. And if you're with them every day, it starts to become a normal thing, and you dismiss it as that's just normal aging, but it's not really an indication of change. But what they may actually be communicating through those signs is a need for increased support. And so I hope that those of you listening have a very loving relationship that you are someone who wants to honor this phase of their life, both parents, or even if you just have one. And I hope that you will think about these changes and think about what to do when this starts happening. We're going to talk about that next. But I hope that you're listening because you want it to be a beautiful experience for all of you. And I have to tell you, it was hard. I had both my parents in my home, and they both took very different journeys, but they were both really hard. And my dad was the first in his cancer, and that was the path that we started down of his end of life. And we did a lot. He did most of the preparation to make that a beautiful experience. And you'll hear about that in the next episode. But there's a lot of hard things. It will be exhausting. And you guys, so many people, I myself, when they were here with us, I had teenagers. I still had kids living here. I still had people to take care of. I even had my daughter and her husband and their baby living with us while their house was being finished. So we get in that place of in between, and you're caring for your children and your home and your workspace, whatever you have going on. You're living your life, and it's probably very full. And now you have to take care of an aging parent on top of it. And it's almost like I was busy looking at all that. My house wasn't tidy. My hygiene was declining because I didn't have time to shower. It's almost like I took on that, and that which I was trying to prevent from happening or manage or control. And so your care is the most important part of caring for aging parents. Okay. And it's really important to find that balance and to find support, especially around those hard decisions. And so in the next episode, I'll be talking about it on a medical side. And the episode after that is my mom's journey to end of life and how that looked and what I learned and what I wished. And I'm just going to pass this wisdom to you. Those were two of the hardest things I think I ever had to go through. But I don't know. There was more, and I'll be talking about those too in the upcoming topics. So home safety is also important. One of the things they tell you is not to have throw rugs anywhere because they trip and fall over them, but do the best you can with that. You want to make sure they have a safety bar installed in the shower, even a chair that they can sit in the shower if they need that. There's just good home safety products that are there. Fall detection systems is, I mentioned that already. And just set it up so that it is like if you were watching a toddler, but not treating them at all like a toddler. Okay. So you just sort of want to know that they're safe. If you're at the beginning, I think this is hard because there's different phases of where your parents might be. So I'm going to be touching on all of them. But let's just say that they're still pretty independent and you're not quite there yet. These are the things that are going to help you, watch for the time when this might be what you need to do. Okay. It's just all those subtle signs are your get ready, get set. And then you're going to usually have one telltale sign that it says go. And a lot of times the green light happened and you didn't notice you're already in it. But further down the road, I think it's a really good idea. And actually, even if you can start early and explore options together, is discussing future plans for a crisis. In the case of an emergency, what are you going to want to do? If you do not have a will, they need to get a will. In that will or in that, you also want to have a living will. Have that conversation very early. A living will means keep me comfortable, do your best, but if all systems fail, let me go. Don't put me on life support. That's usually what people want, but you have to understand that this is true for all of us, by the way, not just our parents. If you want that directive, you have to have it, and it has to be available to whoever answers an emergency call. So once they take you to the hospital or once they come to get you, the sacred oath of our medical system is to save their life. And they're really good at discernment and listening to the family and all of that. But if in an emergency situation, you've got to be able to say, do your best to keep them with us. And if at some point the only option is life support, then he or she does not want that. So get the healthcare directive. A living will is a very important part of your being responsible, actually. While you still can, if you can ask your parents what their preference is, some say life support. Give me time, to heal and come back. So you want to know what they prefer. And it's important that they communicate that with anyone else who might be there and object. You don't want to be in a situation where, the hospital is like, they're on life support. What is the directive? And one sibling says they don't want to be on life support. And the other are like, well, we want him on it. And I've seen this happen. And it's already such an emotional event when you're at that place. You don't need someone in a power struggle over what to do. So have those conversations early. Also ask them, how do you feel about if you can't live independently? What would be your preference? And would you be willing to go visit a few facilities and tell me which one you think you'd be most comfortable in if that's something that we have to do? And when you do that, highlight the benefits when you're there, emphasize that like social opportunities, they'll be safe. They're going to have someone who, would know if they fell. And there's a lot of relief from home maintenance. It's like living in a hotel. You have maid service every day. It's real hard. That was the hardest part for me, you guys, was when I had to go look at those. I didn't do it early. I did it under almost an emergency of we have to start doing this. It was for my mom. And it was like, we recognized that we cannot keep keeping her safe. And it was so hard. And just walking into, I still don't like to drive by a facility like that. I just, here where I had her, it was good, but it was very difficult. So making friends with that sooner than later and letting them have input is a good thing. I will tell you that it's sort of depressing to go in because there's so many different levels of care and you see all of it. And so you have to be prepared walking into an assisted living, not so much because they're still pretty independent, but transitioning them into like even the assisted living, there's floors where there are some that are just harder. They're, in a wheelchair or it's just harder. So just be prepared. That was the hardest part for me. Well, one of the hardest parts, the whole journey of that was pretty difficult for me. So I think the more we learn and the more information, it helps you. And it helped me to know what my parents wanted. That's the one thing I can tell you is if you can still ask, don't avoid the conversation. Tell them it's a gift to you, because if you're the one that's going to have to decide, you really just want to know how they feel about the choices that might have to be made and what the plan will be, and that they don't have to do it alone and that you're with them. But can we look at these things, right? We need to know what your preferences are. And I did do that. And my parents, they did it. I didn't. They told me what their preferences were. They told me, my dad wrote all of it out. He had already paid for his funeral. He was like the most prepared person for end of life. And so, that made it easy. But had he not done that, it would have been a lot harder because I would have wanted to do what was best to keep him here longer. And his decision had to prevail to say, I've lived a full life. I've put this cancer thing off for 18 years, and I knew that it was probably what would take me. And we have to make peace with that. And I'm at peace with that. But I'll be honest, I wasn't. But I had to respect his choice. And he was very clear about it. So ensure that when you're talking to your parents about all this, that they feel in control of those choices, whether it's senior living residences or whether it's in the senior assisted living, whether it's finances and whether it's medical care, whether it's, any of that. Just have real good open communication with them and get that wrapped up. And ask them, is there anything else that you want us to know so that we are honoring your choices and they don't have to be mine? I'm going to walk you through this, but I want it to be your choices. I don't want it to be about what I want because it might not be the same. Have very open communication with family members, letting them know that you've discussed this and ask if there's any questions that they might have. If you're in a difficult family situation, and I can tell you, I see very many that are contentious, and it's not always a sibling. Sometimes it's a different family member that really wants to get involved. Maybe it's your parents' siblings that want to be involved. And you have to navigate that very carefully, always being respectful to everyone's opinions. And it's what helps is coming back to on this day, I recorded the conversation when we discussed this, and this is what they said. And that is the final answer, right? That's what helps in case there is someone objecting to the decisions that you make. There are people called geriatric care managers that you can involve or a family therapist to facilitate that discussion. If they get upset or agitated, you might have to break it apart and just take one topic and discuss it and then wait a week and discuss the next one. But these are important conversations to have. It's also important to keep a record of any agreements, just any documents that you have. If you have the living will, one of the things I can tell you about that, it's so important to have a will and the living will, is that you have to have the original will and you have to file it, and attorneys know how to do that, or you can even make it simple and ask ChatGPT to help you with their will, let them know what they need, and then have an attorney look at it and notarize it and file it for you. They file a copy of it, you get the original, and you have to have the original. And some people lose it. Some people, the will is written 25 years ago. They don't know where it is. It's up in the attic. So make that a priority, that you, as the caregiver, the child taking care of the parent, know where their documents are and start keeping them yourself. Medical records. I made a binder. It had medical records. Anytime there was anything that I needed updating their medication, I had to open my binder, go to medical. There's the prescriptions they're taking. I had a section of financials. I knew that this agency had a insurance policy. Another agency had a different insurance policy. And I had those in that binder, the person that I could contact to notify and send a death certificate upon their death. And so I had that for years before I ever needed it, you all. So it's never too early to start learning how to organize some of this stuff. And it will help you. There's a company that makes a file and folders that's already organized for you, and you just have to insert all your stuff. That's awesome. But you do want to start keeping records handy, and you want to have, if you have a home safe, keep their will in a safe, a fire safe. Although I just learned that doesn't necessarily mean it keeps them from burning. So keep them somewhere safe and see what you can find out about that. There's a lot to this. There's a lot. These are all practical tips. These are all important things. The most important things that I could think of is to have these conversations about their finances and what they have and what the resources are, so that you know how to plan your life. Because if they are like the statistic I gave you and they have $250,000 to live on, and sometimes including, I think there was 90% relied on their Social Security for income. That might not be the right statistic. I'm really bad at statistics, but there was something about that. And if you're in that category, look at their income. What are they living on now? But the retirement or the savings has to end up paying if you go into home care or assisted living or nursing homes. It's so expensive. And my mom had the long-term health insurance policy that we could use for home care. We did it part-time, and we got through 4 years of part-time care in home with me providing care the rest of the time. But it allowed me to go to work at our office, come home, and then provide that care. She lived here in that in-law suite, so we were able to stay home but still take care of her. But then when she had to go into a memory care facility, and that's coming up, I'm going to tell you about the journey when it's more cognitive and dementia related versus physical cancer related. It's two very different journeys through end of life. I want to tell you, like, it was so expensive on top of that policy. If we had not had that long-term health insurance policy, I'm not sure what we would have done. And families are in that situation all over. Like, we are not prepared, and the systems aren't prepared for the amount of baby boomers that are going to need care. We have to talk about it. We have to plan for it. So no matter how old your parents are right now, it's important to get your ducks in a row. It's important to get this checklist of what do I need to know and where is it and how do I do that? So, so important. But aside from that, let's talk about how to prepare emotionally. It's a slow goodbye. It's often a very slow goodbye. Now, sometimes things happen in a very big, instantaneous, you have the shock and the trauma of a sudden death. But even before a sudden death, there might be times where you're seeing some of these things happen, right? So you're still needing to know. You still need to have your ducks in a row for whatever. And just know that if everything's okay, it doesn't mean that you're creating an ending. The ending's going to happen. I always say nobody gets out alive. So we should talk about death. I think that we have a phobia about it. It's too scary. We don't want to talk about it. We like to pretend it's not going to happen. And that was me prior to my dad's death. I didn't want to pretend like it would ever happen. I was like, no, I don't want to talk about that. My dad was wise. And when he was told to go home and get his affairs in order, which you'll hear in next episode, I'll go into that. But I had to do some emotional work. And that's what I'll be talking about next episode. For you, my hope and prayer is that you do your due diligence now. And if you already have parents that are well into the end of life phase, that you notice they need care, there are resources. Use the resources around you. There are all kinds of ways to handle. Just avoiding and being in denial are not your answer. They're just not. It creates such a mess if you don't take care of things when you need to. I know that there's legal issues that you might have to have where in our family, in Bob's mom's case, having to take care of her, she lived across the country from us. So I had to really use resources to put systems in place so that she was cared for. But in that process, I was the daughter-in-law, and the family dynamic was contentious in that situation. And I had a very, very close relationship with her, and everyone agreed that I could be the decision maker for her. So I had these conversations with her. I would go out when she was needing to have home care, and I would stay with her, and sometimes for a couple weeks at a time. And in those couple weeks, I would just say, I need us to talk about what you want. I want to talk about your funeral. I want to talk about all the things, what you want, and to the the degree that I can, I'll make it happen for you. And almost got all of those done. I almost got them all taken care of in the way, but I think that the hard decisions that we had to make, or I had to make, were ones that she would have agreed with, because I spent time talking to her, and it's some I didn't know. But in that situation, we were facing some elder abuse happening. I was across the country. And so being able to watch day to day meant that she was vulnerable. There were times where she was with caregivers, someone checked on her every day, but she was vulnerable. And we had to stop the elder abuse. I'll just say it that way. We had to stop it. And the way that we had to do that was through the legal system and going in and getting guardianship and conservatorship so that I could take care of the finances, see what her assets were. I had to make decisions about her care. And it's a lot. I will tell you, I don't even know how I got through all that. I don't have any idea, but it was a lot. So the more you learn and the more you do right now, the more capacity you have to be with them, to truly be present and to give them love and reassurance and care. And I think that I want to end with, do your emotional work along the way. See a therapist, get a coach, have someone who's walked that path, help you walk through it, keeping yourself supported, having a safe place to process all the emotions that come with it, because you're doing hard things every day. And that part is just so important. And it's another expense to this taking care of our parents. I have to pay for therapy to take care of me. And that's a big yes. You will need it and you deserve it. So don't try to forge ahead alone. If you have a really good friend who's willing to listen, use that. Use the resources you have, but you're going to have to process your feelings as you go along. It's not always easy. And the more you talk to them, the better. I've told you that. I'm wanting to give you everything in my heart right now. Doing your due diligence to take care of your emotional health and your mental health is really important. And treating them with such respect, even in the facilities that we visited, I would see caregivers talk to them like they were toddlers. They raised their voice and they talked to them like if you were talking to a 3 or 4-year-old. And it was so disrespectful to me. And I even saw one man, like the caregiver walked away and he rolled his eyes like, good grief, they're still there. They're still in there. Even when they have dementia or Alzheimer's, they're still there. So give them their dignity, give them their respect. Talk to them like they are wise adults, because they are, even with the dementia, right? You have to talk to them like they're still there. And don't pay attention to what they're saying. Just pay attention to what you're saying, okay? And for people that are dying from some other terminal illness, same thing. Don't treat them if they're bedridden and you're having to change sheets and things. Do it with such care and kindness. I don't think we talk about death enough. And with that, I don't think we talk about how to treat these wise old parents of ours. They have lived a good life. They have collected wisdom. They still have value. And we kind of park them because they can't hear and they might embarrass you. And so it's better to just park them and don't interact or take them out to dinner. And that's just not okay. It's not okay with me. I think that everyone, including me, is going to want more dignity and respect and connection to my family. And so meditate on that. Do some soul searching if you need to. I want to believe that if you're listening to this podcast, you love your parents dearly. And maybe it's your grandparents and you love them dearly. And you don't want to face this and you wanted to hear how to start. And you get serious when you start seeing those signs that I shared with you. So I am here. This depends on when you listen to this podcast. It might be months from now before someone actually picks it up and listens, but I do help coach people through end of life. I am a death doula, and you don't have to live near me. I can still be able to guide you. Death has a beautiful component to it, but only if you do the work ahead of time to be present to it and to be prepared for it so that you can make it the most beautiful experience, both for you and your loved one. And I am here to talk about that. I am not afraid to have those conversations and to support all of it with you. So I hope that this has been helpful. It's given you food for thought. If you know of more things that you've been through this and you know of things you learned along the way that didn't get covered, please send those to me. And I will do another segment to make sure this gets out there. I'm passionate about taking care of our parents. Even if you feel like they weren't the best, maybe you're even estranged from them. What do you do in those situations? And I'm happy to discuss some of that stuff with you. Very happy to. So as you go along, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And a big thank you for leaving comments or liking or sharing this with others just to let them know of this series I'm doing or something that's in my podcast library that might be helpful to someone. Please share it. Please, I'm a little podcast. I'm not a big one, but I want to help all the people who are going to need help helping their parents. I want to help all the people who need help letting go and knowing how to navigate. I want to help all the people who want their parents to have a beautiful ending and don't know how to make that happen. I want to help you. And there's just so many things so much more I could tell you. And I just want it to be relevant because beyond what I've shared today, everything else is going to be individual and specific to your specific journey. And so I would love to consult with you to let you know how to proceed at any time if you need that. So you know how to reach me. And in the meantime, keep showing up for your own beautiful life, as always, with love. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart. And I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself and do so with love.